Welcome back to the Morning Connection, and thank you so much for sticking around. Conrad, we are so sorry. We should have said more about our plans for yesterday. We did talk about taking a decision whether, exactly what we would do, but we needed that day. So thank you for understanding, not just you, but all of the others who were probably looking forward to chilling with us on Ash Wednesday. We took some me time. And
Some
you
R
when
and R.
and when you understand how much fun Pastor had in the country with his wife and his father-in-law, we could never have deprived him of it. It's Pastor's fault.
Okay, I accept
Take
it.
one for the team.
No, but not only taking one for the team, but even as we're speaking about legacy, I
Yes,
found
a
it
nice segue there.
um, good because my father-in-law, his father is 104,
Mm-hmm.
104, still very strong, still going about, still has the mind. His
Mm-hmm.
mind is still
Clarity of
very
mind.
mind, yeah,
Yeah.
and so on, and 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 when he tells you his story, oh wow, I'm going. You can have a legacy and decide, like Jabez, I am not going to take this on. I'm going to break it and set up a legacy that becomes transformative in terms of what happens
So
from me going
you're
forward.
all
Yeah.
right. So you're answering the question that was posed when we're taking the break. When the current generation struggles, is it that they have failed to step into the legacy of prosperity and wealth, or is it that our ancestors didn't lay the foundation for us? You often say here that uh, a man living today must store up treasures for his great grandchild, not his child, because his child would have benefited from
Previous.
your your father then, right?
and and
So
and that and that's a very important thing, because some of the times the people, your grandfather never lay up anything for you, and all you have is in terms of the values that are we you often say it is in the bloodline. It is in the bloodline. The curses and blessings are in the bloodline, and some of the times from a spiritual perspective you have to break, destroy, using the spiritual, and then move forward in terms of laying a legacy that is transformative. To answer your question directly, though, um, some of our ancestors never lay up anything for us at all. When you look at
legacy
it,
of pain.
yes, well, that's what somebody says. We've had a legacy of pain, but now we who are present in this time and in this season need to break it and now begin to, based on a change of heart, a heart condition, now say, no man, me not taking this on like a Jabez. I am not taking this on. Even though his mother cursed him at birth, he says, I'm not taking this on. I'm going to begin to transform. And I'm going to reach up. To reach up, meaning that I'm reaching to the God who is sees everything, knows everything, and make a direct plea to him. And what it says in First Chronicles 4, 9 to 10, and it says God heard him and increased his borders, his sphere of influence. So that is what, to my own mind, the whole thing of we're talking about legacy has to be about. What are you going to do with the hand that you've been played?
Yeah. I invited you to discuss with me the pattern that one can extract from. We're looking at the great legacies now, undisputably great legacies. So of course we went biblical, you know.
We have to go there.
And we started with Abraham. Abraham's legacy as the father of nations is not limited to just, you know, the father of nations, but we were looking at how it later in time, certain things were accredited to him as righteousness. And a particular act that he did when he went in search of his relative who had been captured, and he recovered not just his relative, but every other
That was related
captured
person.
person and the goods. He looted the enemy and brought everything back. And
On his way back.
On his way back, he met Melchizedek and he tithed, but also it was clear that he not only returned the goods and the people to their rightful owners, but he refused to take anything for himself. And then on top of that, he met a great king and he paid homage to the great king, the king who Christ himself was later decreed to be of the order of Melchizedek. We see later where those actions on Abraham's part were being accredited to him as righteousness, and he was described as paying a tithe, which was for Judah,
Was in his
who
time.
was still who
Was
at the
not even born
time
yet.
at the time Abraham himself had no children. So I'm saying to Pastor that to look at Abraham's activities with hindsight and say that he had laid up something in store for his great grand, and that is the foundation of great legacies, is to attribute to Abraham a presence of mind, which is impossible. He did not have it. What he was displaying was great character, integrity, a sense of family, loyalty, humility in not seeking to reward himself for actions which he pursued out of heart and love. His nephew Lot had been taken, family taken, and his immediate response was to raise an army, go in pursuit, recover not just his family, but everything else that had been taken, and to return it, selflessly, seeking nothing for himself.
It is a legacy of love.
No, I mean, we're talking about it now. We're talking about family values. We're talking about love. And we're talking about just raw integrity and a strength of character, which if you do pass that on, if you display it, if you inculcate that in your bloodline, in your children, that is how great
That's why I
legacy-
said that legacy, we often think of legacy as in regards to the physical stuff that you
the
pass
gifts
on, the
that
land.
are,
But
the
to
wealth
my
that
own
you
mind,
amass and leave.
But to my own mind, and as I was relating to you in terms of having done funerals, and you have the eulogy, and you have to talk about and so on. To my own mind, legacy is about the values, the character, the things that you pass on to your children, that you pass on to your great grandchildren, and you can see that coming to the fore.
fore as-
And you can't put a price tag on that, you know.
Not at all.
You can't put a price tag. That is why we keep saying to people, even as you just recounted Abraham, who later named from Abraham to Abraham, and it's significant when you look at in terms of the Hebrew and what the different names meant, is that he was doing what was right.
It was right.
Because it was the right thing to do. And a lot of time when we are reading scripture now, that wasn't written then, you know. They never had that. It is now we are getting the understanding, as you speak about having hindsight. He was doing just what was right. And so in the moment, your greatest legacies are being delivered, are being born simply because you're doing what is right. It's a heart condition.
The
Yeah,
heart
man.
condition.
Yeah.
And then now we talk about the flip side of great legacies. Mostly we think of the positive. We see the prosperity side of it. But there are legacies that come with pain, that come with suffering, that come with turmoil. And as you spoke about, how do you break the oppression that comes with legacy of that kind? We were talking about King David, famous King David. Easy to relate to. We don't have, for these discussions, we don't need to pull from contemporary knowledge or history, because sometimes that in itself is filled with disputes. We can always go biblical, and most people can relate to what we're saying. So we know King David was described as a man after God's own heart. And we know that there were sides to his character that were hardly pleasing.
Aye.
And so it challenges us to understand fully What is the heart of God? What is it that appeals to God as he contemplates the condition of man? Because of David's behavior, Israel became 10 plus 2. And God said, the sword shall never leave your house. And he himself was tortured by power grabs by his own children. And that is a part of his legacy, like it or not.
But yeah, whether we like it or not, because
Most
remember
of-
Absalom,
Yeah.
who tried to
Adonijah
usurp him,
and Adonijah.
Yeah, first with Solomon, and then
Yes.
Absalom, even before Adonijah, in terms of what was happening. But it is true. So we as fathers have to be so careful in terms of the things we do, so we are not setting apart that our children will suffer pain, and if we see that we are doing something that will result in pain, we need to draw breaks and say, no man, I don't want to pass on that to my children or to my
Or their
grandchildren. And
children's
even
children.
in a personal way, I've had to work through the whole thing of legacies, things that are in myself as an individual. But I'm saying, no man, I don't want that to be passed on to my children, because our
or-
great grandchildren are seeing something.
Or certainly you want them to see you overcoming it.
Yeah.
So that when they themselves, if they come into a moment where that struggle is theirs, they also have a template or a pattern
Yeah,
of overcoming it.
Let me share something. I recently did a wedding, and on the wedding form, there's a part that says the name of your father. So I said to the young man, that's the name of him. He said,
It was left blank, in other
no,
words.
it wasn't left blank. It
Oh,
was
that-
left blank. No, it wasn't left
Oh.
blank. But the comment that followed with it, him say, my father, me know him, but him was a village ram. Him have so much away.
Yes.
And that's a legacy that he has had to struggle
contend with.
to struggle with. And so you have to help him, even from a pastoral, spiritual perspective, to break that, because you don't want that. You have all these children and they do not. Guess it. I know he was a sperm donor, but he was really my father. The spirit of fatherhood has been gone. Yeah. So the whole thing of legacy, as we continue to explore that, becomes very, 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 very important in terms of what it is as fathers that we're going to be passing on to our children, even as mothers. But it's the father that is so important, I believe, personally, in terms of legacies. What are you passing down to your children?
Are you saying, say that again about mothers? Women don't have legacies?
I said mothers have legacy, but I'm saying personally, I think the greater thing resides with the father in terms of what it is that they are passing down to their children. That's a personal thing. I'm not saying the mothers don't, So don't get me. We're not going down that road. I'm just saying in a personal thing. That's what I feel
All right, so
strongly about.
you're saying
Yeah, mothers and fathers
mothers and fathers
have
have
legacies,
legacies,
but
the more important legacy is the father's legacy.
yeah, what he passed
More
on the
important
value
to whom?
to everybody, because it comes down the way that I see it.
Oh, pastor.
Yes, I'm saying, pastor, the father, like you talk about
I think
Abraham.
they're equally important. I don't see that there is any greater value in the man's legacy or in the woman's legacy.
I'm thinking of legacy in terms of values you passed on.
Yes, but the values passed on by women are equally important.
Important, but the father's one, that is why my personal thing, I think.
And you know why I say they're equally important? Because with the turmoil in our society, crime and violence, you're hearing more that there is a lack of good parenting, and that you hear about the absence of the father, but you hear with as much vigor the
nurturing role of the mother and the pastor.
the mother's failure to address certain issues.
Which
And
one
in fact,
you
you
think
hear-
they miss most?
In fact, you hear more about the mother's failure than you hear about the absent father.
No, sir. Disagree.
In fact, I think on one occasion you yourself said that it is. Did you say that it's the work of the mothers to break the cycle in the home? No?
Fatherlessness.
The absent father?
Fatherlessness.
Or
Fatherhood
the
is even
cruel
more
father.
important.
Anyway, I think they are
Struggling.
equally important.
Yeah, but that's
And
what
I
I'm
think-
saying.
No, you said the father is more important.
Yes, and that-
You
yeah,
said the
in
man's
terms of-
legacy is more important.
But the man's legacy is more important to me. That's my personal thing, and that's what I'm believing and saying. So I'm putting
Oh,
it
it's more
on
important to you,
Yeah,
not to
man,
society.
Yeah, no, even to society, the fatherlessness.
So it's not just okay.
Yeah, in fatherlessness and what is happening and the impact and
We-
implications of what happens.
Yeah, we